thought of her as my second mother. To start with, the family was happy to have a baby in the house, but then I didn't stop crying and crying. The only thing that would stop me was putting a tape recorder next to me playing Zorba the Greek, but that drove my siblings almost as mad as my crying. We lived in a dusty, neglected desert sort of town called Manbij in northern Syria, not far from the border with Turkey and about 20 miles west of the Euphrates River and the Tishrin Dam, which gave us electricity. My earliest memory is the long swish of my mother's dress, a light-coloured kaftan which fell to her ankles. She had long hair too, and we called her Ai and my father Yaba. And these are not Arabic words. The first fact to know about me is I'm a Kurd. We were one of 5 Kurdish families on a street in a town that was mostly Arab. They were Bedouin, but they looked down on us and called our area the Hill of the Foreigners. We had to speak their language at school and in the shops, and could speak our Kurdish language, Karmanji, only when we were at home. This was very hard for my parents, who didn't speak Arabic and were anyway illiterate. Also for my eldest brother, Sahir, who other children made fun of at school because he couldn't speak Arabic. Manbij is a folkish kind of place and strict about Islam, so my brothers had to go to the mosque, and if Ai wanted to shop in the bazaar, one of them or my father had to accompany her. We are Muslims too, but not so rigid. In the high school, my sisters and cousins were the only girls who didn't cover their heads. Our family had moved from our lands in a Kurdish village south of the city of Kobane because of a vendetta with a neighboring village. We Kurds are tribal people, and my family are from the big Kori Beg tribe, descended from a famous Kurdish resistance leader, Kori Beg, which seems to mean almost every Kurd is a cousin. The next village were also Kori Beg, but a different clan. The problem with them happened long before I was born, but we all knew the story. Both villages had sheep, and one day some shepherd boys from the other village brought their flock to graze on our grass, so there was a fight with our shepherd boys. Shortly after that, some of our relatives were going to the other village for a funeral, and on the way were fired upon by 2 men from the other village. When our clan fired back, one of their men was killed. They vowed revenge, so we all had to flee. That's how we ended up in Manbij. People don't know much about Kurds. Sometimes it seems to me we are completely unknown in the rest of the world. We are a proud people with our own language, food, and culture, and a long history going back 2,000 years, when we were first recorded as Kurti. We are maybe 30 million people, but we have never had our own country. In fact, we are the world's biggest stateless tribe. We hoped we would get our own homeland when the British and French divided up the defeated Ottoman Empire after the First World War, just as the Arabs thought they would get their own independence as promised after the Arab Revolt. The Allied powers even signed an agreement called the Treaty of Sèvres in 1920, which recognized an autonomous Kurdistan. But the new Turkish leader, Kemal Atatürk, who had led his country to independence, would not accept it, and then oil was found on Mosul, in what would have been Kurdistan, and the treaty was never ratified. Actually, 2 British and French diplomats called Mark Sykes and George Picot had already signed a secret pact to split the Levant between them, and drawn their infamous line in the sand, from Kirkuk in Iraq to Haifa in Israel, to create the modern states of Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon. So the Arabs were left under colonial rule between borders which paid little heed to tribal and ethnic realities, and we Kurds were left divided between 4 countries, none of which likes us. Today, about half the Kurds live in Turkey, some in Iraq, some in Iran, and about 2 million of us in Syria, where we were the biggest minority, about 15%. Even though our dialects are different, I can always tell a Kurd from any other person in the world, first by the tongue, then by the look. Some of us live in cities like Istanbul, Tehran,